have a purpose. You're just living life. And that sounds so wonderful. But ultimately, that's not much of an existence. It's nice to know that my life has a purpose. That God's got a plan for me. That there's a reason why I'm here. And I hope each one of you can look at your lives and see the same thing. You are special. God has a purpose for you, a reason for your existence, to move forward, to keep you going, just as Christ's life did. We're supposed to be like Him. Don't forget how special each one of you are, and that your life has a purpose. Jesus had a reason for being here, and He set out to go to Jerusalem. Why did He do what He did? God called Him to do it and set Him about a task. Why do we do what we do? Remember, there is a reason for your life. And then the next, I want you to notice the road. The road. Jesus had a specific path, and we can physically see that. Jesus set out for Jerusalem, and of course He sent messengers ahead of Him, and the people there didn't welcome Him because they knew where He was going, and they didn't like it. I'm not going to get into the whole Samaritan-Jew disagreement and relationship. It's just not important here. But know this. Jesus' path carried Him through some rough times. Okay? And again, I want you to be able to relate to that. Because friends, if you've lived longer than 5 seconds, you know that sometimes life is difficult. Sometimes life is hard. From the very, very youngest, Olivia, there in Mama's arms. I don't think there's anyone younger here. Poor little child cannot communicate. If she is hungry, all she can do is go, wah. Frustration right there because she does not understand. To the oldest one here, I'm not going to name names. Guys, we've been through tough times. You know what it's like. And sometimes, if we're being really honest, we don't like it. We don't like it. Wouldn't it be easier if God just blessed us and then sent us along these rose-lined paths with rose-colored glasses, that the world looks wonderful and fabulous, and we never, ever, ever have any problems? Wouldn't that be nice? Y'all just nod your head. It would be, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be great? But life does not work out like that. Notice the apostles did not want to go into the Samaritan village. They were not happy about it. But they went dutifully because they had to go to prepare a place for Christ. And when they got there, guess what? The people didn't want them there. They didn't like them. Ever been there? These ladies challenged us to go, not necessarily to Amsterdam, but where you're living. Have you ever, as a Christian, not been welcomed because you're a Christian? Or are you too ashamed to be a Christian? See, I made some of them mad with that statement. Does the world know you're a Christian? Does the world know you're a Christian? And if it does, then you know what it's like to be in some tough situations, to have to stand up for your faith, to actually be a Christian, to reflect Christ, to stand up and stand for Him in a situation where it might be difficult. At home, at work, at school. Guys, the road sometimes is difficult, but that is always for your benefit. It is always for your benefit. Remember, and we've got a few of you sick people here. You know, those that are healthy and working out all the time. Right? Used to be there. Talk about continuum. That would have been way back here somewhere. They tell you all the time, no pain, no gain. I say no pain, happy life. But it's just me. When you're working out, I vaguely remember this, it should feel sore, but you don't want to injure yourself, okay? You should feel some pain, whether it's the tearing of the muscles and the rebuilding and all that kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. The bottom line is that pain is beneficial. Look, just because you've got bigger guns than me doesn't give you the right to talk right now. All right, here we go. Love you. All right, we realize this, guys. Listen to me. This is important. Sometimes the pain is beneficial. Do you hear me? The pain is beneficial. When you go through those rough times, God is working in your life to prepare you for something else. God always brings you through those tough times for your betterment, not just to put you there and make you suffer. You are going through tough times, if you're going through tough times, so that God can use you to a greater ability. And if you're not going through tough times right now, guess what? As we work towards the continuum, you probably will. It's always, listen, always, always, always for your betterment. Let me share this scripture with you. John 15:20-21 says, remember what I told you. Christ was speaking to his apostles. He said, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. Did they persecute Jesus? Brian knows. Did they persecute Jesus? Yes. So what does that mean for you? Continuing, if they obeyed my teaching, they'll obey yours also. They will treat you this way because of my name, for they do not know the one who sent me. Too many times as Christians, we want the easy road. Not promised. In many cases, not given. Why do we do what we do? Guys, no matter where God sets us, we have to keep doing it. We've got to get through the rough spots. We've got to travel on and on and on. I remember as a young child when we were living out in Nebraska the first go around, when we go back and visit relatives, we had to go through Iowa. When you are 10 years old, heading east, Iowa is the longest state ever. It never ends. It just keeps going. Iowans here, some of you? Anyone got a couple? God bless you. Travis, one. It just never stops. And at some point, my parents could have said, you know what, this is too long, we're going home. They never did. We kept pressing on. Eventually, we got through it. Folks, whatever you're going through right now, God knows. If you're on the path that God set for you, keep going. Keep pressing on. Don't quit. Why do you do what you do? Because God's into it. The third thing I want you to notice is verse 54. It says, when the disciples James and John saw this, they asked, Lord, do you want us to call fire down from heaven to destroy them? Reason, road, and response. Oftentimes when we get in those tough situations, we respond like these apostles. Don't you love that? I love just the frank honesty in that. Jesus, they rejected us. Let's call fire down. Burn them up. How dare they? Now understand, part of that was the animosity there, because they didn't do that to other groups. I mean, they went into other people's houses if they were rejected, and certainly they were. They didn't want to call hell fire down on them. But we understand all of that. Recognize this. We often respond in similar ways, don't we? I mean, if we're really being honest. How many times do we get upset when things don't go our way? Just in life. Just in life. How many times do we get upset when things simply don't go our way? Just last night, my wife and I went out to get something to eat. And I had decided where I wanted to go. So, of course, I made the mistake of saying, well, honey, where do you want to go? And she listed like 5,000 places because she was hungry. And when she gets hungry, she really doesn't think straight. Neither do I. I'm even worse. But she was at that point. So I was trying to get a feel for what she wanted the whole time, knowing where I would like to go. I was desperately trying to steer her in that direction. And she would have none of it. Finally, she narrowed it down to 4 or 5 or 10 places. I don't remember. And finally, I got it. I got her to pick the place that I wanted to go. We're going there. Woo. And as we stopped, I made the mistake of mentioning another restaurant. And she went, oh, I like that turn here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay. Dutifully, yes, dear. And I went to this. Here's what I discovered. Do you know what they had at that restaurant? Food. And do you know what I did? I ate it. And do you know what happened when I was finished? I was happy and I was full, and there was not a problem. That was not what I had in store. That's not what I had in plan. That's not what I wanted to eat. But you know what? Everything was just fine when I did it. Guys, too many times we get upset when things don't go our way, specifically when we're dealing with the things of God. Stop it. I can't say that emphatically enough. Stop it. As the husband over the wife, I could have said, Pam, this is where we are going. I probably wouldn't be here right now if I tried that. But guys, I have authority. Right, Pam? Just kidding. I could have called it. I could have said, this is where we're going. Guys, we do not, in any way, shape, or form, have that right with God. Scripture reminds us that He's bought us with a price, that He paid for us through Jesus Christ's blood. He owns us. He is the master, and we are merely servants. And we don't like that. But my friends, we should never, ever, ever shake our fist at God and say, what you are doing is wrong. Yet we do. So many times. That's not what we want to do. And we get angry and we get upset when things don't go our way. And we get frustrated with God. And we say things like, God, I'm better than that. Or I'm bigger than that. Or I'm more talented than that. Or I'm more useful than that. God, can't you do X, Y, or Z? God, why don't you? Why can't you? God, why? 1 Corinthians 3, 5-7 reads this way. What then is Apollos? What is Paul? Servants through whom you believed, as the Lord assigned to each. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth. I like that phrase. Let's do it again. God gives the growth. It's repeated twice in those few passages. And guys, you've got to realize what we've been called to do is simply walk the path and trust God. Do what God has called us to do, wherever He leads us, however difficult or easy it might be, and recognize that He is over us. Our response should always be, yes, sir. Sometimes we don't like it. Sometimes we struggle. But we are not our own. We belong to God. And our response should be appropriate. Guys, we can grumble. We can complain. We can get upset. But we need to do it. That's the Jonathan principle right there. I love working with my oldest son. Because when we tell him to do something, and he doesn't want to do it, you can see it in his face. Sometimes he allows the exasperation to come out. Usually it involves him being on the sofa and some task that I don't want to do. Jonathan, go load the dishwasher. Now, yes, fine. He learned that from his mother. But he does what he's been asked to do. And sometimes, after a while, when he sits back down, I say, thanks, buddy, and I get him some dessert. He likes his dessert. Or Mommy will come home and say, who loaded the dishwasher? I did. Thank you so much. And he gets a hug. If you know Jonathan, he likes hugs. Guys, the bottom line is, by simply being faithful to what we've asked him to do, he is rewarded. Guys, the same thing is true with all of us. I'm not saying you're going to like everything God's called you to do. Simply be faithful to do it. What is your response? And lastly, this is the reality. I love what Christ did. When they were confronted with that, they asked him, hey, can we call hellfire down? Jesus said, nope, we're not going to do that. Rather, we're going to go on. He doesn't want to condemn. He doesn't want to kill. He doesn't want to destroy. Jesus came to love. Jesus said when they were crucifying, remember, Father, forgive them. They do not know what they do. Jesus' response is always one of love and care and concern. And when you look at your life in the big picture, when you realize there's something more, there's something special that God has called you to do, no matter how you're walking, quickly, slowly, no matter where you're walking, happy or sad, difficult or easy, no matter what you're doing, God is with you, encouraging you, strengthening you, asking for obedience. Someone, somewhere is watching. They know. They see. And are you reflecting the love of Christ? Certainly Jesus was disappointed that a village was rejecting him, that lost souls were not being spoken to. Yet Jesus loved them anyway and continued doing what He was called to do. My friends, do not forget what these young ladies said. The challenge that they issued you. The encouragement that they gave you. You, each one of you, are on your mission field. Each one of you have been called and purposed by God to reach the people right where you are, wherever that might be. God's already there, at work, preparing your path, preparing your road. Are you going to be obedient and simply say, God, I'm going to do whatever it is you've called me to do and love these people? Or are you really going to reject Him? And say, God, I'm going to do what I want to do. Not talking salvation, simply talking about Christian obedience. So ask yourself, do you have a purpose? Do you have a reason? Do you have a goal? Do you have a calling? And if not, are you asking? Are you seeking? If you do, are you obedient? And in all ways, are you fulfilling what God's asked us to do? To go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father and the Son. Are we doing what we're doing? Why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? And how has God spoken to you today? Father, I thank you and praise you so much for your holy word. And Lord, as we think about what Jesus did, God, I pray for each person here that they know how special they are. That they know that you're preparing that path, whether good or bad. And that our response simply needs to be out of faith.